The Last Page. Part 1. The Librarian's Secret. In a quiet town there was a library. This library was special. It was big and filled with many books. The walls were tall, and the shelves were full of stories. People came to the library every day to read, study, and escape into different worlds. The librarian's name was Clara. Clara loved books more than anything. She spent her days organizing the shelves, helping readers find their favorite stories, and reading during her breaks. Clara believed that every book held magic inside it. But she had a secret that very few people knew. Clara knew that each book had a last page that showed something very important. This last page was different for each reader. It held that person's entire life story. But here was the catch. Only the reader could see this page. If you opened the book, you would see the usual words and stories. But the last page revealed the reader's life, their dreams, their joys, their struggles, and even their deepest secrets. Clara had watched many people read and close books with tears in their eyes or big smiles on their faces. They often whispered to themselves, sharing their happiness or sadness with the book. Clara felt happy for them, knowing that the last page held their true story. One sunny afternoon, Clara was working in the library. She loved the way the sunlight filtered through the big windows, creating a warm glow on the wooden floors. She decided to take a break and read one of her favorite books. It was an old tale about adventure and friendship. As she flipped through the pages, she could feel her heart racing. The story was beautiful, and she lost herself in it. Finally, she reached the last page. Clara took a deep breath and prepared to see her own life story. But when she looked, her heart sank. The last page was blank. Clara felt a wave of confusion wash over her. She blinked and rubbed her eyes, thinking it was just a trick of the light. She turned the page again and looked closer. It was still blank. No words, no pictures, nothing at all. What does this mean? Clara whispered to herself. She felt a strange feeling inside, a mix of fear and curiosity. Was it possible that she had no story to tell? Or was it something else? She thought about the other readers. They had all seen their stories, filled with hopes and dreams. What did it mean if her page was empty? Clara sat quietly, feeling the weight of the blank page. It was as if a door had closed in her heart. With a deep breath, she stood up and decided to walk through the library. Maybe, just maybe, she could find some answers. Clara passed rows of books and noticed people reading in the cozy chairs. She saw a young girl smiling at a book, an old man frowning in deep thought, and a teenager laughing at a funny part. Each of them had their own stories, their own last pages. Clara wondered if her own story was waiting for her somewhere in the library. Was it hidden among the books, or was it gone forever? As she walked, she thought about what an empty last page could mean. Maybe it means freedom, she thought. Maybe I can write my own story now. But another part of her wondered if it meant something more troubling. Was she not meant to exist in the way everyone else did? Clara felt lost in her thoughts as she wandered. Just then, a small bell rang. signaling that the library was closing soon. Clara took a deep breath and went to the front desk. She wanted to talk to someone about her blank last page. But who could understand? Who would believe her? Clara looked at the books surrounding her. They were filled with stories of love, loss, and adventure. She needed to find the answers on her own. With a new determination, she decided to search for clues in the library. Maybe, just maybe, she could uncover the mystery of her blank last page. As she started her search, Clara had no idea how much her life was about to change. She had no idea that the truth was waiting for her, hidden in the stories of the library. And so, with her heart full of questions, Clara began her journey into the unknown, ready to discover what it meant to find her own story. Part 2. The search begins. Clara stood in the middle of the library, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. The tall shelves towered above her, filled with thousands of stories waiting to be discovered. She could hear the faint sound of pages turning and the soft whispers of readers, but her mind was focused on her own blank last page. What did it mean? Why was her life story missing? She walked toward the back of the library where the older books were kept. These books had dust on their covers and yellowed pages. Clara loved these books because they held the wisdom of the past. As she looked at each title, she felt a sense of calm. She hoped that one of these books could help her understand the mystery of her empty last page. Clara picked up a thick book with a faded cover. It was about the history of the town. As she flipped through it, she found stories of people who had lived long ago, their struggles and their achievements. She read about a brave woman who fought for her rights and a man who built a school for children. Their stories were inspiring, filled with hope and courage. But none of these stories answered her question. She closed the book, feeling the weight of uncertainty again. Clara moved to another shelf and saw a book with a colorful cover. It looked new compared to the others. The title read, "The Secrets of Life." Intrigued, she pulled it off the shelf and opened it. The pages were crisp, and the words flowed like a river. The book talked about dreams, hopes, and how everyone has a purpose in life. It said that sometimes people need to search for their true selves to find their stories. Clara felt a spark of hope as she read. Maybe I need to look deeper into myself, she thought. Maybe my story is not just written down but lived out. But what did that mean for her? She felt lost again. Suddenly, Clara remembered her favorite spot in the library. A cozy reading nook by the window. It was her special place where she often lost herself in books. She decided to go there and think. As she walked, the sun began to set, casting a golden glow through the windows. The library felt magical in that light, and for a moment, Clara forgot about her worries. When she reached the reading nook, Clara sank into a soft chair. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the warmth of the sun wash over her. What do I want? She asked herself. What do I want to write on my last page? Her mind wandered to her life. The moments of joy, sadness, and everything in between. She thought about her friends, her family, and the things she loved. She remembered the time she helped a young boy find a book about dinosaurs, how his face lit up with excitement. That was a moment she cherished. Clara smiled, feeling warmth in her heart. But as she sat there, she couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness. It was as if a piece of her was missing. She opened her eyes and looked around the library. There were so many people reading and writing their stories. Clara wondered if anyone else had a blank last page. Just then, she noticed an older man sitting at a nearby table, scribbling in a notebook. He had gray hair and glasses perched on his nose. He seemed focused, lost in his own world. Clara felt a sudden urge to talk to him. Maybe he would understand what she was going through. Taking a deep breath, she approached his table. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I couldn't help but notice you writing. What are you working on?" The old man looked up, surprised. "Oh, hello. I'm writing my memoirs," he replied with a warm smile. "I'm telling the story of my life. It's quite an adventure." Clara's curiosity grew. "Do you think everyone has a story to tell?" she asked. "Absolutely," he said. "Every person has their own journey, filled with unique experiences. Some may be happy, some sad, but all are important." Clara thought about his words. What if someone doesn't have a story? She whispered, feeling vulnerable. The old man paused, looking thoughtful. "That's an interesting question. Sometimes people may feel lost, but it doesn't mean they have no story. It just means they might not have found it yet." His words struck a chord in Clara's heart. "What if I can't find mine?" she asked, feeling tears welling in her eyes. "Finding your story is a journey," he said kindly. "You have to explore, experience, and sometimes take risks. Don't be afraid to look for it." Clara felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe she needed to explore her life outside the library. She could try new things, meet new people, and have experiences that would fill her last page. With a renewed sense of purpose, Clara thanked the man and walked back to her special chair. As she sat down, she looked around the library once more. She saw readers smiling, laughing, and even crying. Each person was writing their own story, just like she was meant to do. Clara knew it was time to start her journey. She needed to write her own story and fill that blank last page. With determination in her heart, Clara made a plan. She would leave the library tomorrow and explore her town. She would meet new people, try new things, and discover what life had to offer. Clara closed her eyes again, this time filled with excitement. "Tomorrow will be the beginning of my new adventure," she thought. "I will fill my last page with experiences, and I will find my story." As the sun set, Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. She was ready to take the first step toward her new life. Part 3. A Day of Discovery. The next morning, Clara woke up feeling excited and nervous. Today was the day she would step out of the library and explore the world around her. She had made a list of things to do and places to visit. With a smile on her face, she ate a quick breakfast, dressed in comfortable clothes, and grabbed her bag. Her first stop was the park. Clara remembered that many people went there to relax, play, and enjoy nature. She thought it would be a great place to meet new people. The park was not far from the library, so she walked briskly, enjoying the fresh air and the sound of birds singing. When Clara arrived at the park, she was amazed by the sight before her. Families were having picnics, children were playing on swings, and friends were laughing together. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over everything. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the place. She decided to sit on a bench and observe the people around her. As she watched, she noticed a group of children playing soccer. They were running, kicking the ball, and cheering each other on. Their laughter was infectious, and Clara couldn't help but smile. After a while, she noticed an elderly woman sitting alone on another bench. The woman looked a little sad, staring at the ground. Clara felt a tug in her heart. She remembered the old man's words about exploring and connecting with others. Maybe this woman needed someone to talk to. Taking a deep breath, Clara walked over to the woman. "Hello," she said softly. "Is it okay if I sit here with you?" The woman looked up, surprised but smiled warmly. "Of course, dear. I'd love some company." Clara sat down beside her. "My name is Clara. What's yours?" "I'm Evelyn," the woman replied. "It's nice to meet you, Clara." Clara felt a connection with Evelyn. "What brings you to the park today?" she asked, hoping to learn more about her. Evelyn sighed and looked around the park. "I come here often to watch the world go by. It reminds me of my younger days. But sometimes it feels lonely." Clara nodded, understanding. "I know what you mean. I've been feeling a bit lost myself." Evelyn looked at Clara with curiosity. "Lost? In what way?" Clara hesitated but then decided to share her story. "I work as a librarian. I discovered that my last page in life is blank. I'm trying to find out what that means and how to fill it." Evelyn listened carefully, her eyes thoughtful. A blank page can be scary, but it can also be a chance to create something new. Sometimes, we need to explore our hearts and minds to find our stories. Clara felt a sense of relief wash over her. Talking to Evelyn felt good. "How did you find your story?" she asked. Evelyn smiled, her eyes shining with memories. "Oh, I've had many adventures. I traveled to different countries, met fascinating people, and learned so much about life. But it wasn't always easy. I had to face challenges and overcome my fears." Clara listened intently, inspired by Evelyn's words. "What was the best adventure you had?" she asked eagerly. Evelyn chuckled. "There are so many, but one that stands out was when I went hiking in the mountains. I was scared at first, but the view from the top was breathtaking. I felt so alive. It taught me that sometimes we must push ourselves to experience the beauty of life." Clara smiled, imagining the beautiful mountains. "That sounds amazing. I want to have adventures like that." "You will, dear. Just remember to take the first step," Evelyn encouraged. Every little experience counts. They all add up to your story. Clara felt her heart swell with hope. Thank you, Evelyn. You've given me so much to think about. As they chatted, the park came alive with sounds of laughter and joy. Clara felt her spirit lift. She realized that talking to Evelyn was exactly what she needed to begin her journey. After a while, they decided to go for a short walk around the park. Clara and Evelyn talked about their favorite books, dreams, and even their fears. Clara learned that Evelyn loved to read as much as she did. They shared stories about the characters they loved and the lessons they learned from them. As they walked, Clara noticed a small group of people painting on canvases. Some were painting flowers, while others were capturing the beauty of the park. Clara felt a spark of excitement. She had always wanted to try painting but never had the courage to do it. Would you like to join them? Evelyn asked, noticing Clara's interest. Clara hesitated. I don't know how to paint. What if I'm not good at it? Evelyn smiled gently. It doesn't matter if you're good or not. It's about expressing yourself and having fun. Just give it a try. With Evelyn's encouragement, Clara felt a surge of courage. Okay, let's do it, she said, feeling excited. They approached the group of painters and Clara borrowed a canvas and some paints. At first, she felt nervous, but as she dipped the brush into the colors, she felt free. She started to paint the vibrant flowers in front of her, mixing colors and letting her creativity flow. With each stroke of the brush, Clara felt lighter, as if she was painting her emotions onto the canvas. She laughed when she accidentally splattered paint on her clothes. Evelyn chuckled along with her, sharing the joy of the moment. Clara felt a connection growing between them, two women discovering their stories in their own ways. As the afternoon turned to evening, Clara stepped back to admire her painting. It wasn't perfect, but it was a reflection of her heart, filled with color and life. That's beautiful, Evelyn said, clapping her hands. You've captured the spirit of the flowers. Clara beamed with pride. Thank you. I never thought I could do this. As they finished painting, Clara realized that this day had changed her. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, tried something new, and met someone who inspired her. She was beginning to fill her blank last page with experiences and memories. Before they said goodbye, Clara exchanged phone numbers with Evelyn. Let's keep in touch, Clara said. I'd love to hear more of your adventures. Evelyn smiled. I'd like that, Clara. Remember, every step you take adds to your story. Keep exploring. With a heart full of joy and newfound purpose, Clara walked home that evening, ready to continue her journey. She realized that her blank last page was not an end, but a beginning, a chance to write her own beautiful story. Part 4. A new chapter begins. The next few days flew by for Clara. Each day, she took the time to explore different parts of the city. She visited art galleries, went to local cafes, and even attended a few community events. With every new experience, she felt her heart fill with joy and excitement. The blank last page of her life was slowly transforming into a colorful tapestry of memories. One afternoon, Clara decided to visit a nearby bookstore. She loved the smell of books, the feeling of the pages in her hands, and the stories waiting to be discovered. As she entered the shop, a small bell rang above her head, announcing her arrival. The place was cozy and filled with soft light, making it a perfect sanctuary for book lovers. Clara wandered through the aisles, running her fingers along the spines of the books. She stopped to read the titles, imagining the adventures within each one. Suddenly, a book caught her eye. It had a beautiful cover with a painting of a forest and the title Whispers of the Woods. Intrigued, she picked it up and flipped through the pages. Just then, she noticed a young man nearby, engrossed in a book. He looked up and smiled at her. "That's a great choice. It's one of my favorites," he said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Clara smiled back, feeling a sense of connection. "Really? What's it about?" "It's a story about a young girl who goes on an adventure in the woods and discovers magical creatures. It's about finding courage and believing in yourself," he explained, his voice full of passion. Clara's heart raced. She loved stories that inspired bravery and self-discovery. "That sounds amazing. I've been looking for something like that." The young man introduced himself as Jake. "I work here part-time. If you're interested, I can recommend some other books too." Clara felt excited to have met someone who shared her love for reading. They talked about their favorite genres, authors, and even the stories that shaped their lives. Clara shared her recent adventures and how she was beginning to fill her blank last page. Jake listened with interest, encouraging her to keep exploring. As they chatted, Clara learned that Jake was an aspiring writer. He shared that he often wrote stories based on his own experiences. "I believe that every person has a story to tell," he said. "And every story is important." Clara nodded, feeling inspired by his words. "I've been thinking about writing my own story too. Maybe I can write about my adventures and what I've learned." Jake's face lit up. "You should. Writing can be a powerful way to understand yourself and share your journey with others. Plus, it's fun." Clara felt a rush of excitement. The idea of writing her own story made her heart race. "I'd love to start writing. Do you have any tips?" "Sure. Just write what comes to your mind. Don't worry about making it perfect. The important thing is to express yourself," Jake advised. "You can also keep a journal. Write down your thoughts, experiences, and feelings. It helps to clear your mind and find inspiration." Clara felt grateful for Jake's encouragement. "Thank you. I'll definitely try that." They exchanged numbers and agreed to meet again to share their writing progress. After leaving the bookstore, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She decided to start a journal that evening. She found a simple notebook and a pen and began writing her first entry. It felt strange at first, but as the words flowed onto the page, she felt lighter and more alive. "Today, I met a wonderful man named Jake in the bookstore. He inspired me to write my story. I am filled with hope and excitement," she wrote. She poured her heart out, writing about her experiences in the park with Evelyn, her adventures in the city, and the lessons she had learned. As days turned into weeks, Clara made it a habit to write in her journal every evening. She found joy in capturing her thoughts and feelings. Each entry helped her reflect on her journey, and she could see how far she had come from the librarian who felt lost. One evening, as she was writing, she noticed a flicker of doubt creeping in. What if her story wasn't interesting enough? What if no one wanted to read it? She paused, feeling uncertain. But then she remembered Evelyn's words about every experience counting, and Jake's encouragement to express herself. Clara took a deep breath and wrote through her doubts. No matter what, my story is mine. It is filled with my feelings, adventures, and dreams. It matters. Feeling more confident, Clara began to think about how she could share her story with others. She remembered that the library often hosted open mic nights for writers and poets. Clara decided she wanted to share her journey with people who might relate to her experiences. With a mixture of excitement and nerves, Clara signed up for the next open mic night. She spent days preparing, writing, and rewriting her piece. She wanted it to reflect her journey of self-discovery and the connections she had made. The night of the event arrived, and Clara felt her heart race as she entered the library. The room was filled with warm lights and people chatting. She took a deep breath and found a seat in the audience, her journal clutched tightly in her hands. When it was her turn to read, Clara stood up, her palms sweaty and her heart pounding. But as she looked out at the audience, she saw familiar faces. Evelyn, Jake, and some other friends she had made along the way. Their smiles gave her courage. Clara began to read her piece, her voice trembling at first. But as she continued, she felt the words flow more easily. She shared her journey of discovering herself, the friendships she had formed, and the beauty of filling her blank last page with experiences. The audience listened intently, their eyes shining with understanding. As she finished, Clara looked up to see everyone clapping and smiling. She felt a rush of joy and relief. She had shared her story, and it resonated with others. In that moment, she knew she was no longer just a librarian. She was a storyteller. After the event, Clara was surrounded by people who wanted to talk to her. They shared their own stories and thanked her for her honesty. Clara felt overwhelmed with happiness. She realized that by sharing her experiences, she had created connections with others. That night, as she walked home under the stars, Clara smiled. She was no longer just filling a blank page. She was writing a vibrant story, one that was full of hope, friendship, and adventure, and she couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. Part 5, the last page revealed. As the weeks turned into months, Clara continued to thrive in her new life. She formed deep friendships with Jake, Evelyn, and the other writers she had met at the open mic nights. They supported each other, sharing ideas, stories, and encouragement. Clara felt like she was part of a community, a family of storytellers who understood the power of words. Inspired by her experiences, Clara began to work on a collection of short stories based on the people she had met and the adventures she had embarked on. She titled her book, The Last Page, inspired by her own journey of self-discovery. Writing became not just a hobby but a passion that filled her with purpose and excitement. One sunny afternoon, Clara sat in her favorite park, her notebook open on her lap. The birds chirped cheerfully around her, and she felt a sense of peace wash over her. As she wrote, she reflected on how much her life had changed since she first discovered that blank last page. She was no longer afraid of what it meant. She embraced it as an opportunity for endless possibilities. But as much as she enjoyed writing, she often thought about the last page of her own life story. She still had not seen anything written there. Was it truly blank, or was she just not ready to see it? Clara knew she had to confront her fears. One evening, she decided to visit the library once more, hoping to uncover the mystery of her last page. When Clara arrived at the library, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She walked through the familiar aisles, the scent of old books wrapping around her like a warm hug. Finally, she made her way to the special section where the books with hidden last pages were stored. She found her favorite book and carefully opened it, revealing the last page, which still glowed softly, waiting for her to see. Clara took a deep breath and concentrated. As she focused on the page, she felt a rush of warmth and light surrounding her. The words began to appear, flowing like a gentle stream. She watched in awe as sentences formed, revealing her life story. It spoke of her journey, her friendships, her fears, and her courage to embrace life's adventures. The last page read, "In the journey of life, Clara discovered that each moment, whether filled with joy or sadness, was a thread in the fabric of her story. She learned that love and friendship were the colors that painted her experiences, and through her words, she found her voice. The last page of her life story was not the end, but a beautiful beginning. A canvas yet to be filled with dreams, laughter, and new adventures." Clara's heart swelled with emotion. This was her story, one filled with love, growth, and endless possibilities. She realized that her last page was not just about what had happened, but about what was yet to come. It was an invitation to continue living fully, to keep exploring, and to keep writing her life. With tears of joy in her eyes, Clara closed the book and took a moment to breathe in the significance of her discovery. She understood now that the blankness she had feared was a blank canvas. It was not a symbol of her non-existence, but a reminder that life was a work in progress, and she was the artist. Leaving the library that night, Clara felt a sense of freedom and empowerment. She had taken control of her life story and had the courage to keep writing, one page at a time. As she walked through the moonlit streets, she felt the thrill of what lay ahead. She envisioned the stories yet to be told, the adventures waiting to unfold, and the connections still to be made. In the following months, Clara published her collection of short stories. The book was well received, and many people found inspiration in her words. Clara often returned to the park where she had written her first story, now filled with laughter, friendship, and creativity. She held regular workshops, encouraging others to explore their voices and share their stories. As the seasons changed, so did Clara. She continued to grow, to learn, and to embrace life's unpredictable journey. Every experience became a treasure, each moment a new chapter. Clara learned that the last page of her life story would be filled with love, laughter, and the richness of human connection. Years later, as Clara sat in her cozy living room, surrounded by her published works and cherished memories, she took a moment to reflect. The last page of her life story was still being written, and she felt excited about the journey ahead. She smiled, knowing that her heart was full, her life was vibrant, and her story was a beautiful tapestry woven with threads of hope, courage, and joy. And so, the librarian who once feared her last page now embraced every moment, knowing that life was a wonderful adventure, waiting to be told. Clara's journey teaches us that our lives are stories in progress, filled with potential and possibility. Every blank page is a chance to create something beautiful. What will you fill your pages with?